Good afternoon, everybody. It is 3:51 p.m. on this Tuesday, December 17th, 2013, and we are literally a week away from Christmas Eve and 7.5 to 8 days away from Christmas Day. Yeah, kind of surprising, huh? Which means we are now also, ladies and gentlemen, 14 days away from New Year's Eve and 14 and a half to 15 days away from 2014. What a way to go out, huh? But anyway, I want to talk about something that I talked about on camera for the past few nights. And that is the fact that artist Ben Bates over at DeviantArt recently released basically some reference sheets on Sally Acorn's Princess Sally Acorn's Mecha Sally design. The first two parts, of course, deal with her roboticized design. The first part deals with how she looked originally when she was roboticized. And the second look deals with her weaponized look. Yeah, part one deals with how she was first originally roboticized, and the second part deals with her weaponized look. The third part has not been released yet. I'm assuming he's waiting till this weekend, or at least till this Saturday, to release part 3, or he is at least waiting until issue 256 is officially delivered into the hands of a lot of subscribers and readers, and then probably he'll release part 3. But I'm guessing it'll be by this Saturday. I'm hoping we'll see something by this Saturday, seeing as though we already know what Sally's going to look like. But when I posted this video along with the links on the Sega forums, as well as at Sonic Stadium, well, not the video, but the links, as well as, well, here's what I did, basically. Here's what I did, ladies and gentlemen. At the Sega forums, in the cartoons and comics section, I posted a video as well as the links to where people can read what Ben Bates had to say. Over at Sonic Stadium and Sat-AM Sonic, basically Fans United for Sonic Sat-AM, or Fans United for Sat-AM, I posted I posted the links, as well as I copied and pasted not only the reference pictures, the reference sheets for part 1 and part 2, but I also copied and pasted what Ben had to say, and I put them in quotations so people can read them over at both message boards. So, yeah, that's what I did. And the reaction has been pretty much the same reaction you would expect. And it's the same reaction that some people have at DeviantArt, when they found out about it, have gotten as well. You see, basically the situation that Ben Bates was talking about, you see, the reason he did this is because of the discussion of what's going on in the comic right now, and more importantly, the situation with Sally's redesign. So Ben Bates basically decided to give us an idea of how originally things were supposed to go down. And to say someone like myself, when this first all occurred, pretty much called this right off the bat, along with a few others, would be saying just a little bit much, wouldn't it? But yeah, it's like I've said before, and I'll say again. When you've been a reader and a fan of not just the overall Sonic franchise, but when you've been a reader and a fan of the comic book since almost the very beginning, then you pretty much have an idea of how things are going to go down. And when you have a fan who's become the head writer for the Sonic comic book, along with other comic book titles, you pretty much have an idea of what the fan is going to do, and pretty much what kind of outcome the fan is going to come up with. And from what Ben Bates describes in a lot of these, in these first two parts, I should say, in these first two parts, is the fact that had it not been, well, he doesn't come out and say this, but basically he indicates that if certain situations had not taken place behind the scenes, that originally the Mecha Sally arc was going to run at least to issue 250, just like some of us already thought it would. But due to some unfortunate circumstances behind the scenes, that did not come to pass. But when you read what he had to say, and I'll provide the link to both part 1 and 2, so in case you guys didn't read it before, you can read it now. Ben Bates basically just comes out and explains that originally it was going to be a 3-step process: robotization, weaponization, de-robotization. That's how it was going to be. But again, unfortunately, due to some circumstances beyond anybody's control, I guess you could say, that did not happen. Now, again, fans' reactions to this so far after reading all of this, even at the Sega forums, oh, the reaction is, well, how should I say, it's not just priceless, and it's not surprising. Because pretty much, I'm not siding, now here's the thing, I'm not siding with anybody over at Deviant. I'm not siding with any of the groups that I'm a part of. But when you have groups like Save Archie, the Save Archie group, when you have the anti-Mecha Sally group, when you have the anti-Archie group come out and pretty much say that the only reason she was roboticized was to give her a redesign, like I mentioned, when people like that pretty much come out and say this is why it's happening, especially after they see the redesign for the first time last year, you know, for those that doubted that, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but for those that doubted it, those people pretty much have egg, to coin a phrase, on their face right now. Even those that supported Ian Flynn have basically are not too happy with what they're reading. Because pretty much they're seeing exactly what, because pretty much not only does this put egg on their face, but it pretty much tells them that these anti-groups that were against Ian's writing will write all along about what was going to happen with Sally. And it kind of ticks them off a little bit, because even though to them Ian Flynn's still a good writer, and from an unbiased standpoint, to me, from an unbiased standpoint, he has the potential to be a great writer. From an unbiased standpoint, he has that potential to be a great writer. Pretty much Ian pretty much the fan that Ian was and still is, they pretty much see that the fan that Ian was and still is came around or came up with this solution. You see, if Ian Flynn would put his the fan portion of him aside, which I'm sure he does, to work on his stories, then maybe we wouldn't have had such a predictable outcome or such a predictable prediction of what was going to occur. But unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. Now, again, to say fans' reactions to hearing what Ben Bates has to say about how this was all going to be like a 3-step process, and basically revealing what a lot of people said they had called, like myself. Again, it does upset a lot of fans that tried to defend the idea that that wasn't going to happen. In fact, you got some fans, when you look at the Sega forums, going like, wait a minute, we dealt with 20 issues of crap, or 20 issues of filler, and some people would call it 20 issues of filler crap for this? For this reason? You know, to them it's like, well, why couldn't you just do this differently? Why couldn't you just do it in a way that wouldn't have us sit through or wait through 20 months of crap, or 20 months of unnecessary stories? And again, in my personal opinion, folks, this goes back to the fact that I believe, my opinion, I believe Ian Flynn wanted to use this Mecha Sally Death Egg Mark II World Tour 2 arc as his answer to Endgame. That's what he wanted to do. And unfortunately, due to some circumstances beyond his control, that did not happen. That is why we had as many issues on this arc as we did, because that's what he wanted to do. Now is Ian Flynn, and no offense to Ian, but do you think he's really going to come out and tell you guys that? No, he's not. He's not going to tell you that. No writer of any kind, whether it's a script writer for a movie, whether it's a lead head writer for a movie, a head writer for a television show, a head writer for the graphic novels, head writer for novels like Hunger Games and Twilight and, whatever. Head writers for comics from DC and Marvel and Dark Horse and Image. Do you think they're honestly going to come out and say, oh, the reason we did this is because I wanted this to be my answer to such and such story by the other writer? I wanted this to be my legacy piece? No, they're not going to tell you that, folks. Which is why, in my personal opinion, a lot of those that kind of tried to give Ian the benefit of the doubt, saying he would not do something that dumb by having Sally roboticized, weaponized, and then de-roboticized with clothing that resembles what she wore basically as Mecha Sally. It ticks those people off, and I don't blame them. I don't think anybody blames them. I don't think anybody's going to come out and say, oh, well, we blame you for this because you guys wouldn't listen. No, nobody's going to blame them. Pretty much they're going to say, hey, pretty much what they're going to now say is, hey, look, maybe next time you won't bash us so much, and you'll at least listen to what we're trying to tell you. You see, you see, that's basically the impression these fans are getting with what Ben Bates is telling them. You know, some fans have even come out and said, well, if this was the entire case, if this was all just to give Sally a redesign, why couldn't they just do a side story? And that's what a lot of fans have been saying for the past few years. It's like, if this is all planning to give her a redesign, you could have just easily done a side story and had Bunny and Amy take her out clothes shopping, giving her, you know, a makeover to where she has the new clothing and say, hey, this is what I'm going to wear from now on. Because to a lot of fans, it would have been easier to do that. But then again, you know, this is Archie we're talking about. And when you're in competition to try to be on the same level as DC and Marvel, when you try to be on that same level as DC Comics and Marvel Comics, you do whatever it takes to get to that level. But again, like I said, when fans read this and they find out what originally was supposed to be the plan of how Sally was going to be roboticized and then returned to normal, it doesn't sit well with them. In fact, one fan said in one of the last postings, or one of the last repostings or replies, I saw at the Sega forum. One fan was basically saying, you know, I hope we don't find out that this whole giving Sally clothing and all that has to deal with something else, or deal with what I think it's dealing with, or being done because of what I think it's being done for, or because of, you know, because basically this fan looks at it like, you know, they're hoping that they're hoping that on top of this, they don't find out possibly in part 3 or down the line that the reason for Sally's redesign and clothing is due to what a lot of people were assuming it was already dealing with, and that is the soccer mom's philosophy. Because like I said, if you think Archie Comics, Ian Flynn, or anybody's going to come out and tell you, oh, the reason we gave Sally a redesign is because of this, because of the soccer moms and all that, they're not really going to tell you, because they want to protect the image of the company. And they're going to, so basically they're not going to tell you they're not really going to tell you everything you want to know. The only time I'm guessing will ever find out the true answers as to what happened behind the scenes is the day Ian Flynn steps down, is the day Ian Flynn walks away from Archie and either goes to DC or Marvel. Only then will he be able to sit down and probably tell us the real reason. Probably have time to say, this is why. That's the only time guys like Ian Flynn are going to be able to say anything. Is the day they walk away, or they get an offer from another comic book company to be one of their head writers. That's the only time, folks. That's the only time, and I guarantee you that's when we'll find out the truth. But anyway, like I said, fans' reactions to this has not been, the fans' reaction is, it's not surprising basically how fans are reacting to this, because, some fans who did kind of give the Mecha Sally Death Egg Mark II World Tour 2 arc a chance, you can't really blame them for not being happy about it, because being happy about what they're hearing here, because pretty much the roboticization, the weaponization and all that was just going to lead to Sally getting restored with a new look. You know, and again, the new and again, something's and now again, let me say this. Well, not again, but let me say this though. This 3-step process that Ben Bates is talking about, it's nothing new when it comes to media. When you have a main character going through a 3-step process similar to this, it's always going to result in the third process giving them a new look, a new redesign. We've seen it in different different animated shows. I mean, we've seen it with different animated shows throughout the 80s and 90s and even before that, like the 70s and stuff, and even the 60s, and even in the 2000s. We've seen characters go through this 3-step process. Even in live action shows, we've seen it. In animated movies, in live action movies, we've seen all that. We've seen this before. We've seen it in other comic books. We've seen it in different novels and stuff. So it's nothing new. But the only difference, I think, the fans that read about this three-part step or three-part step for Sally's situation, when they read this and they compare it to maybe the other examples I talked about, not by name, but those other examples, I'm sure a lot of them will say, well, those other examples, didn't give us 20 issues of rinse and repeat kind of situations just to say, oh, by the way, originally in 250 she was going to be de-roboticized and she was going to have a new look. She was going to have clothing resembling the roboticized weaponized armor that she had. So, that's how some of these fans will look at it. Now, here's the thing, though. Here's the big difference. When fans look at this, they say to themselves, and they have proven at times, that perhaps they could do better. Mixed Fan 8643 over at DeviantArt has proven you could do better in your own eyes. He's done some rewrites all the way up to at least 255, if not 256, of what he feels originally should have been done if it had not been for the interference of Archie Comics. The crossover with Mega Man, the Ken Pender situation, and all that. And from what I read, Mixed Fan did a decent job. He really did. Now, it's not just doing rewrites of what you feel could have been a better option or better storyline run. There's also fans that kind of feel that, hey, if they would have done this, it would have really made things interesting because it really would have made the story more intriguing, more dramatic, more action adventure, more cliffhanging like, because it would basically give the characters more of a reason to try to, let's say, save and restore Sally. For example, one artist over at DeviantArt, Sonic fan if you will, named Ace of Speed, did a picture of Sally when she was Mecha Sally, but did a picture of her, transforming into something similar to what Metal Sonic had transformed into at the end of Sonic Heroes. Something very similar. And if I can find it, I'll provide a link to that picture here. But basically, it was something that called her like a queen or something, whatever. And basically, Ace of Speed, when he originally drew this, and a lot of people looked at this, and this was during the Mecha Sally arc run, a lot of fans were like, you know what, that would be interesting if that would happen. And they said, hey, that would be cool if it happened, because that would be, taking it to another level and basically saying, hey, makes it look like it's more And basically it makes it look more impossible to try to save her. But again, that's just another example of fans saying, hey, even though a fan saying, hey, look, we can even draw ideas that could be better used or could be used better in the story than what we're getting. So again, when fans read something like this, not only does it tick them off, especially those that supported Ian and the Mecha Sally run, the Mecha Sally arc run, if you will, but it makes them say to themselves, you know what, if this is what it was all about, if this was the reason this happened, we could have done better. We could do better. And pretty much they will come out and say that. They will pretty much come out and say, hey, we could do better. We can do a lot better no matter what people say. And again, Mixed Fan 8643 is a good example of that. In fact, you even have some fans petitioning right now to continue the original story arc, the original Mecha Sally story arc, the way it was supposed to be continued. Had it not been for the interference behind the scenes of the lawsuit between Ken Penders and Archie Comics. And, when fans look at this, again, like I say, it does kind of upset them because pretty much, like I said, a lot of the fans that, they were kind of like saying, oh, you're wrong about it. Ian Flynn wouldn't do this. Guess what? Guess what? Those fans that would say Ian Flynn wouldn't do that have gotten egg on their face about it. And another thing that I'm pretty sure is putting egg on their face is people like myself have come out and said Ian Flynn would not gut her, would not have Eggman gut her. Basically take her apart and all that. And when I read what Ben Bates had to say in both parts so far, never once does it indicate that Eggman was supposed to take her apart or gut her. There was no indication of that. So basically what that tells me is you had nothing more than weaponized armor. That's all you had. So, again though, it's just, when fans look at this and they pretty much read this and, it's like, to them it'd be like, why would you do this? Why? Because basically the thing will be is, why would you put us through 20 issues with the plan to end this in 250? Why would you put us for almost 20 issues or 17 issues or whatever you want to call it, with the only to let us know that this is only now to let us only, well, basically to them it's like I said, one fan is basically like, wait a minute, you basically would have put us through 20 issues, 17 issues at most so far, but 20 issues if things had originally gone according to plan, just to give her a redesign, and again, it doesn't sit well with a lot of the fans. It doesn't sit well with these fans that were trying to hopefully not think this way, hopefully not hoping that this would not be the reason, not be, the reason she's gotten the new look, not be the reason, why the redesign occurred. And again, you could have people say, well, they're supposed to look like they're in the games. Okay, that's fine. Look like they're from the games. Okay, no problem. But when you have somebody come out and basically tell everybody, here's the 3-step process of how it was going to happen, how do you think fans are going to react when they find out the truth? They're not going to react. They're either going to react positively or they're not going to react very well at all. So, but anyway, that's basically what I have to say on Ben Bates. Basically, Ben Bates' two-part release so far. Two out of three. Two-part. Basically, it's 2 out of 3 release on what on the Sally on the Mecha Sally design and Sally redesign that was going to take place originally, had plans originally gone down the way they was supposed to. So let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. Take your time listening to this. I'll provide the links down below if you want to read what he has to say himself. And I'll talk to you all later.